My name is Rosborough, welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be talking about replacing your pickguard in your Strat. You've had yourself a budget Strat style guitar for a little while and you're looking to upgrade it. The best way to make your guitar sound better is of course to replace the pickups. There are many options that you can choose to upgrade your Stratocaster's electronics. One way is buying all the electronic parts individually and wiring it up yourself. This can be a little intimidating for people who haven't soldered before and maybe are just feeling a little bit nervous about the whole process. There are other options, and the easiest one in my opinion is to buy a loaded pickguard. A loaded pickguard will have all your electronics pre-soldered and pre-assembled, ready to slot into your new guitar, just needing to attach your earth cable and your wires for your output. There are a ton of options out there in terms of loaded pickguards of what you can choose. You can start off super cheap, and that's what I have in my Strat at the minute. I got one from Music Lily for £24 or £23. Put that into perspective, I would struggle to get a pickguard for about 15 quid. So they have a fully loaded one with a humbucker, 2 single coils, the pots, the switch, etc. That is unbelievable. It sounds okay, it's fine. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you could go for an official Fender loaded pickguard. They will set you back maybe about £150 to £200. They'll have really good Fender pickups in it, a really good switch, super CTS pots, etc. The other benefit about getting an official Fender one is that they're going to sound pretty good. There's no kind of gamble in what pickups you're getting, where if you go on the more budget side of things, it could be a gamble for what you're going to get. Now in between those two options there are a multitude of choices you can make. One of my favourite mid-priced pickups are Wilkinson, and Wilkinson do a loaded pickguard for about 85 to 90 quid for a really good one. And lucky enough, I forgot that I bought one years ago and it was lying in a cupboard and I found it. So today we're going to be replacing my really cheap 20 odd quid loaded pickguard, and we're going to be putting in the Wilkinson one. I will do a comparison between the two, and also for the sake of science, and because I'm too cheap to replace my strings, I'm keeping the strings all the same. I'm not doing any setup difference. The pickup height, etc. will be exactly the same. The mic on the amp will be in the same position. Even the gain on the microphone shall be the same as well. So we should get a really good solid comparison. And I'll also be showing you how to install your loaded pickguard into your guitar. Let's take a look at your loaded pickguard. When it arrives, it should look like this. Mine has little bits of plastic coming off because, as I said, it's been lying on a cupboard. You'll see your pickups are already installed, all the wiring is already done, you've got your pots, etc. So you need to know what you need to solder. You should see some loose wires as well from your pickguard. One of these will be soldered onto the back of your trem. Let me show you. Onto here, and that's to stop any earth buzz or anything happening. Then you'll have another 2 wires. These 2 wires may be joined up in one mega wire. These go to your guitar output. One will be earth, and you'll notice that that too is attached to the back of a pot, and the other one will be your kind of hot output, and that should be soldered into one of the lugs of your volume pot. You're going to need a screwdriver because you're going to have to unscrew your last pickguard and screw in your new one. You're going to need a solder sucker to remove the solder of the old wires that you aren't using anymore. You may also need a wire nipper as well to break those wires, and of course to solder you're going to need a soldering iron and some solder. You don't need to go mad on buying like the really bougie mad expensive soldering iron. In terms of soldering guitar, a cheap enough soldering iron will do the job. First thing to do then is to remove your old pickguard. Take out all the screws. Keep those screws handy because you don't want to lose them. Lift off that pickguard. Sometimes you might find that the pickguard goes a little bit under the neck, so you might need to pull it back a little bit and lift it up, but with a bit of manipulation it should come out really easily. Then you can choose to nip your earth wire and your 2 wires to your output and then remove them with your soldering iron and solder sucker, or you can desolder those joints and just take it out as one without nipping those wires. Maybe you might want to keep that pickguard for another guitar, or maybe you might want to sell it on. So very first thing I'm going to show you is how to desolder those joints that are already on your guitar. Okay, so looking at the trem on the back, usually the wire is soldered on here. Someone else has soldered this one on here, but whatever. Very first thing is get your solder sucker ready. Push this up, and when you're ready to suck, you push this button and it goes. And you're also going to be heating up your soldering iron. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to let that lie there. Now some factory solder takes a lot of heat to desolder. So just keep your soldering iron on there and it will melt eventually. You're not going to break anything or harm anything in your guitar. Next along is to remove this, and here you'll see you've got your earth wire because it connects to this ring, and then your hot, or where your signal comes from, is on this wire which runs to this part here, which makes connection to the tip of your jack cable. So we just hold our soldering iron on there and we wait for the solder to become liquefied and then suck it up. And the same now with the earth wire. Oh. So now it's come to reinstall a pickguard. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this earth wire, which is attached to this pot, and I'm going to feed it in through the cavity hole in the back, and our output ones are going to go through this cavity and poke out this hole here. So I'm going to hook mine on the a little latch that is on the bridge here. If you don't have that, what you'll do is you'll scratch the back with your screwdriver, and that will give a little bit where your wire can connect quite easily. So heating up the wire and then just sneaking that solder in there, and that should melt whenever this comes to temperature. Next thing now to do is to attach our earth and our hot wire. So let's get our earth soldered first, and what you're going to do is hold your soldering iron up to the hole and the wire, heating both of them, and when you're putting the solder on, you kind of want it just to cover that whole hole, and that makes sure the wire's making a really good connection with everything. And then next is our positive. Same thing again, just heat up that connection and push your solder forward, and you should get a nice clean solder. Make sure there's no holes, make sure everything's attached quite well. Give it a little shake, give it a little tug, and this should be us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put all the screws back in. I'm going to set the pickup height by using the screwdriver on those screws on either side of the pickups and match what I had before. This is going to be really good for a comparison. Okay, so that is the comparison, and I personally in this room can hear quite a clear difference between those two sets of pickups, particularly in the humbucker. The Wilkinson humbucker is so hot. It's given such a big output. There was a huge output jump there, whereas the Music Lily one, there was not much difference in output at all. I personally am playing an HSS Strat because I love the humbucker sound on a Strat at the bridge. I play music that usually has a lot of distortion or a lot of gain on it, so I do prefer a really high output humbucker. Now, there is something to be said about pickups, and that is they are totally subjective. Tone is totally subjective, but if you're choosing a pickup that matches your style, it's only going to improve the tone that you're playing with. Now, there is one thing that we haven't touched on here that should be said when it comes to getting the best sound out of your guitar, and it's got nothing to do with your electric guitar. It's actually got to do with your amp. If you really want to see a vast improvement in your overall tone and your overall sound, I would suggest investing in a really high quality good amplifier first before you start changing things like pickups, etc. in your guitar. Now, good quality amplifiers can be quite expensive. I've reviewed a couple of cheap ones already on this channel that sound really good. You don't always have to break the bank as well when it comes to amplifiers. Everything is up to you and it's totally subjective. Music is an art form, and that goes for what equipment you use and what you choose to put in your setup. I love messing about with my guitars. I love changing the pickups, I love changing the electronics, I love tweaking them, I love putting different setups on them, etc. And the reason I love doing that is not only because it's fun, but also, let's be honest, when we get something new for our guitar setup, be that new pickups or a new pedal or a new amplifier, even a new set of strings, it can be really inspiring for us. It can make us want to sit down and practice more, or perhaps we might get a brand new song out of our guitar if we're sitting jamming. There's a lot of people out there who will say, you know, when you've got a bargain Strat and you're doing it up, oh, why are you putting in pickups that cost 3 times as much as your guitar? Because you can, and because you want to, and because it's going to sound good. If your budget guitar has no inherent problem, if it stays in tune, if it plays well and there's no buzz, that's a good guitar. Replacing the pickups is only going to make it better. It is your guitar. Don't listen to what anyone else says. If you want to improve it, if you want to work on it, if you want to change things in it, go right ahead. As I said, it's really inspiring when we get something new in our guitar, and it connects us to your instrument even more when we take it apart and when we work on it ourselves. I hope that this video has been helpful for you. I will be doing more electronics work like changing pickups, etc. in the future, so make sure you subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If there are any pickups that you absolutely love and you think other people should check out, whether they be super bare knuckle expensive or whether they're like dirt cheap off eBay, please leave it down in the comments, and that might help someone else as well make a decision. Until the next video, ta-ta.